Hey everyone, welcome to this episode of the Graybeard Talks Geospatial. This is Bruce Buxton. I'm the Graybeard. Thanks for being here every Thursday at 4 o'clock Eastern Time, 1 o'clock Pacific Time. This is a live stream show from Critigen, in which we talk to Critigen folks that are instrumental to our success, as well as industry experts, partners, people who we rely on, and people who we think are interesting in the industry. And I want to welcome my guest today. So I want to welcome today Joe Wong. And Joe is one of our senior solution architects here at Critigen. He is specifically assigned and charged with the duty of working with our Lemur product, which is our light touch integration GIS, mobile GIS tool. So we're going to talk a lot about that today because that's what he does. That's where he lives. That's where his head's at. So welcome, Joe. How you doing?
Hey, thanks for having me here, Bruce. And hi, everybody on LinkedIn. It's good to be here.
I'm going to put my earphones in because I think the sound will be a lot better for all y'all if I put my earphones in. I forgot to do that when we were getting started, Joe.
No problem, Bruce. No problem.
That's about stupid. So listen, Joe, tell the viewers where you're calling in from, where your call home and all that.
Yeah, absolutely. So I live here in Seattle, Washington. Born and raised in Seattle. Never left Seattle. Went to school in Seattle, and I'm working in Seattle. So,
what part? Seattle's a big place. What part?
I live in Linwood, Mukilteo. So north Seattle, about 22 miles from the city.
Okay. But your family, where you grew up closer down to the old city, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. When I was younger, I grew up in the city of Seattle. Yeah.
Yeah. You took me I forgot to say that you're one of my favorite people at Critigen. So whenever I get a chance to be with you, I like to be with you. And the last time we were together, you took me to an Asian restaurant. I can't even tell you what. I can't even tell you what
restaurant in Seattle, Menaki's.
What's it? Menaki's. Yeah, we had sushi. We had sushi, I think, right?
We did sushi and fish collar.
It was good. It was good. Anyway, so are you a family man?
I am a family man. Got a son and a daughter, a 9-year-old son and a 7-year-old daughter. They both keep me pretty busy.
What are you and they into together? What do you do?
Well, lately what's been consuming a lot of my time with the kids has been scouts. So both my son and daughter are in Cub Scouts. Mm-hmm. And they've been doing scouts now for a year. I think we've been doing it for almost a year now. And all the activities, it keeps me pretty busy. And it's completely outside my element, Bruce. I mean, when I was growing up in a traditional Asian family, Chinese family, camping, fishing just wasn't part of growing up.
It wasn't in the program for you.
It really wasn't. So, the kids, they challenge and stretch me by, asking me to take them camping, not just myself, my wife too. Right. So, taking them camping, taking them fishing. We actually, it's funny. I was talking to Carl, one of our colleagues in Massachusetts, and I was telling Carl, I said, "Hey, Carl, I gotta take the kids fishing. Any tips for me here?" Right. And it's just great. I mean, we're a company, we're a tight company, and we're all right, Bruce. I mean, I can call you up, and you and I, we could talk for hours, not even about work. Just
well, you could call me for parenting advice because all my chicks are out of the nest. I've got 5 of them. But no, you kind of played into my hand here because I was going to ask you a question that wasn't anything I prepped you for, and that question is, what do you like most about working at Critigen?
I love the people that we work with, and I love the projects that we get to work on, and the customers that we get to do them for. I really do. It's interesting because we work on these projects, and you develop these connections with your colleagues, right? We're traveling. Like for instance, before the pandemic, I was traveling to Boston roughly about every 2 weeks is what it averaged out to. And when you're on site, you're you get to develop some real deep relationships with your colleagues and even the customers, right? And during the pandemic, some of our customers decided to put some of their projects on hold, but their relationships never got put on hold, right?
Yeah,
so I was able to
cool.
pick up the phone and talk to some of my friends, and that's the part that I really enjoy.
Yeah, and it'll be interesting. You and I'll talk about it another time probably, but it'll be interesting to see how everything kind of shakes out after the pandemic and, kind of where we are. I was just talking to another of our colleagues, Jeff Archer, and we were just talking about how things are permanently changing. We were just in a meeting, Bruce Taylor and I were just in a meeting where the client told us, hey, we don't see ourselves ever going back to the office, which was a shock to hear out loud. But I knew it was a possibility, but I just didn't think that decision was going to come that fast. At any rate, let's just go. Oh, what did you have something to say?
So customers don't think that. So Bruce didn't think that he'd be traveling back on site.
Well, in this instance, this is a gas company on the East Coast, a gas distribution company who said basically that they don't have plans to go back to the office. In fact, they lost a key lease for one of their for their IT staff. So the IT staff, they don't have a place to go anyway because they lost their building during the pandemic. So it'll be interesting to see how it all shakes out. Let me welcome.
It really is going to be pretty interesting. I agree.
Yeah, let me welcome some folks here. We've got watching in. We've got Cassandra. We've got James from West Virginia. Welcome, James. Keith from San Diego. We've got Sandeep, and I don't know where Sandeep's from, so you can tell us where you're from. I know you've been here a few times, Sandeep, so tell me where you're from. And Diana, and it looks like Sarah's here, Jeremy's here, Steve Roach is here, just all kinds of good folks. So thanks everybody for coming today to this talk. So I started this by saying you're a senior solutions architect, but specifically you're attached to the Lemur product that we have. Maybe tell us a little bit about what your job entails.
Sure, absolutely, Bruce. So I got a real unique role here at Critigen, kind of do a little bit of everything. But I'd say my core duties as a senior solutions engineer is to work with our software partners, whether it be like SAP or Salesforce or Esri, to build solutions, software demos, proof of concepts that answer that really demonstrate a very specific feature we might have in our product. I also work with our software partners on actual implementations as well. So I oversee implementations of Lemur at different customer sites. I ensure and do my best to make sure that they get implemented properly and without any major issues.
So I think I said in the written part of the invitation or the announcement for this live stream that you spend as much time in the field as you do behind the keyboard. Maybe not right now, but normally that's kind of where your time is spent. You do a fair amount out in the field figuring things out.
Oh, absolutely. And it's valuable, right, Bruce? I mean, because the experience and the knowledge that I picked up firsthand doing the implementations, I'm able to take that back to our product development team, and we're able to further refine the product, right? So each iteration of Lemur, in my opinion, is always better than the last release.
That's a good thing. That's a good thing to be able to say. If you can say that every time, you're in good shape.
Absolutely.
Okay, so we're going to dig in a little. We're going to dig in a little bit to Lemur, but I want to ask anybody who's viewing if you have questions about either the Lemur product or about Joe's job or about working at Critigen, you name it. If you have questions, we'll try and answer it, and if we can't answer it, then we'll get back with you on the answer another time. All right. So you were going to say something else. What were you going to say?
Oh, I was just going to mention to the listeners, I really can't imagine doing mobile GIS without Lemur today. And I've been a GIS developer for a long time, since probably like 2002.
Well, that's a good place. That's a good place to take off then. So you're saying you can't imagine doing mobile GIS without Lemur. So let's just talk about what Lemur is and what it's not. So maybe you can start there.
Absolutely. So Lemur is a mobile GIS application. It's purpose built for the field operations, right? It allows companies to make a zero compromise decision between GIS and work management, right? So
Okay.
we've seen a lot of work management applications also try to be a GIS application. And
Right.
sometimes they're real good at work management, and then other times they're really good at GIS, but we never really seen anybody out there that has been great at both, right? So that's where Lemur comes in. Lemur, we're not trying to be work management. We're focused on that mobile GIS experience. And we're built on the ArcGIS platform. So what that empowers our users is that the same data and symbology that, like a supervisor or somebody looking at GIS data through a web map would see, or in ArcGIS Pro, they would see that same data and symbology and experience in Lemur being built on the ArcGIS platform, in addition to their work management work, in addition to work, right?
I remember when I first heard that description that apps are trying to do one thing or the other really, really well, and they're not doing either one of them very well. But Lemur can seem to handle both of those things at the same time. What when you say the same, you say zero compromise GIS experience. Like, characterize that. I know you said a few things like symbology, but what else does it? What else does that zero compromise GIS experience allow for a field user? And with a field operations sort of work management sort of workflow, what does that allow them to do that they couldn't do without that zero compromise?
Sure. So zero compromise. When I talk about zero compromise GIS experience, there, what we're talking about is equipping somebody out in the field with exactly that zero compromise GIS experience, right? All of the data that they would see in a normal traditional web map or in a desktop application like ArcGIS Pro, for instance, they would get access to that same data out in the field. Why is that important? Well, utilities are both underground and they're overhead and underground, right? And if you're repairing a leak, you're going to want to know, like, okay, well, one, where is that asset relative to my current position, right? And what is that pipeline asset? How does that relate to other aspects of the network, right? Does it connect to the valve? Where's the shutoff? The
Right.
access.
I would call that situational awareness. Is that the way you describe it?
Yeah, it brings that level of situational awareness to somebody out in the field before they actually, start repairing assets or reporting leaks, and it improves safety. It's all about safety, right?
Talk about that. I'm going to take a question from Steve Roach, but in a minute. But talk about that. How does Lemur improve safety?
Well, if field users didn't have access to an application like Lemur that gave them that zero compromise GIS experience, they would be relying on paper maps or other systems that require an always on or always connected system, right? Like a web map, right? Lemur works offline first. So you could be in a very remote part of the state. You could be in a very remote part of the city. You could be underground and still have access to a zero compromise GIS experience, right? You can still see all of your pipeline assets, all of your electrical assets in a single map view, right? You don't have to worry about printing a paper map ahead of time before you head out into the field. You just go out into the field and all the data is there for you. It's all on an iPad. And by the way, Bruce, we do all of that with 3 keywords in mind: simple, reliable, and intuitive, right? We know that the guys out in the field they're not technologists first, right? They're the guys out there making repairs to the pipeline, installing new transmission lines, distribution lines, for instance. And we can't afford to have users out in the field overwhelmed with technology. So
technology is not their job.
That's not their job.
Technology is just one of the tools they have in their box. Tell me, if Lemur is offline first, then that means it's caching GIS data. And so how do I know that I'm using the most current GIS data if it's offline first?
Yeah, because our Lemur platform, so Lemur Pro, our iOS or Windows application, is supported by our entire SaaS infrastructure, right? Lemur SaaS, and Lemur SaaS can be deployed as an on-prem or in the cloud solution. In the cloud, we manage all the updates for our customers. On premise, the customers will still get all the updates, but they'll be responsible for executing those updates themselves.
Okay.
But the Lemur SaaS environment, you can create rules in there, and you can say, hey, pipeline lines, we need to have those refreshed every hour or every day or every month or every 6 months, right? Or once a year. So Lemur brings that flexibility and that power to the table. And when users log into the application, when they log into Lemur Pro automatically checks to see if there's any new GIS data available, and it automatically downloads that data to the user device if they're connected to the internet. Right?
Yeah, that's a really important point. I think that one of the selling points I understand about Lemur is it does offline so much better than any solution on the market. Hey, I want to take a question from Steve.
Yeah.
Steve says, I'm curious, where are your Lemur developers located, centrally or decentrally? And Joe, if anyone would know this, you would. Well, I guess Bill Greep would know it better than you, but you probably have a good idea.
Decentrally, we're spread out across the entire U.S., right? Some of us are in Seattle, some of us are in Colorado, some of us are in Raleigh or in North Carolina. Some of us are also in Texas. So yeah, we're just spread out, but we're still a team of one.
Yeah, well, one of the things that happened during the pandemic is that we realized really early on, back in March of last year, that we were really good at this remote work stuff. We've been good at it for a long time, and we're just getting better at it. So even the development work is, done remotely and decentralized, and it works. It seems to work really well. Thanks for your question, Steve. And anybody else who has questions, you are more than welcome to ask. So I want to move on just a little bit. Let's just dive a little bit deeper into your job. Like the first time you and I met was on site to do a Lemur demo at an agency in the city of New York. And I just, when we were doing that demo, I was just thinking what an interesting experience, because not everything goes right all the time. It has nothing to do necessarily with your preparation. There are just all kinds of things. So how do you like that part of your job? What are the ups and downs of being a demo jockey?
Well, it's fun and it's stressful at the same time. Let's put it that way, Bruce, right? It's stressful in the sense that if I'm doing a demo or a proof of concept with one of our software partners, we usually have one shot to get it right? Mm-hmm. If something doesn't go right, or if you don't hit all the key points in that proof of concept or demo, customers or future customers could be moving on to a different solution. So that part is exciting, but it's also stressful. The part that I really enjoy about that is telling the story through the software. But one way that I really mitigate problems that might come up is I always have my demos in a PowerPoint. I always take good screenshots of what I'm planning on showing ahead of time. And if a live demo just doesn't go well, and it has happened, then I'll reach for the PowerPoint. But I got 3 iPads queued up for a live demo. So if one iPad dies, I got 2 more to go.
Yeah. That reminds me, I think one of your claims to fame, I think, in the company is configuring 500 iPads for a deployment we had out on the East Coast. And that was an interesting story. Tell us a little bit about that. I think you did that all in 1 or 2 mornings, early in the morning or something.
Oh yeah, it was an Ironman session there, Bruce. So National Grid was getting ready to roll Lemur out to one of its jurisdictions. And it was going out initially to, I think, 500 initial field users. And yeah, went out to the yard, stayed up all day and all night, and configured all 500 iPads. That was pretty intense. I mean, what was even more intense is
hang on, Joe. 500 of anything is really a lot, right? 500 of anything. But I can't even imagine, what did 500 iPads look like? How many boxes?
It just looked like this wall that we created in a room. It's like taking Legos or building blocks as a kid and stacking them up and making a wall. It's like 500 iPads is more than the worth of my entire house.
Yeah. So you have this wall of iPads, and then you're anticipating a stream of field users coming in and wanting their mobile device, and then wanting to know just a few things about how to make it work.
Absolutely.
That seems like you deserved a medal for that.
Hey, well, I didn't do it all by myself. Chris Markle, one of our other colleagues, he helped with that, and then one of our partners from PwC also helped out with that. So it was a good team effort. Can't take all the credit, but it sure was pretty awesome to kind of go through that Ironman session and get 500 devices configured with AirWatch MDM. And then once they were configured with the AirWatch software, AirWatch was able to push out Lemur and Salesforce Field Service Mobile automatically to the device. So it worked out real well.
And then how hard was it once you got them configured and you got Lemur installed and you got the data downloaded? How hard was it to get an individual user comfortable enough that he could walk away from the table?
It was real easy, actually. I was actually really surprised because a lot of users out there already have experience working with other mapping applications like Google Maps or Apple Maps.
Okay.
The experience with Lemur wasn't much different. The major hit home there, though, with Lemur is that these field users were able to see their mapping data in our application, right? And that mapping data wasn't anything new to them because it was symbolized the exact same way that they would normally get it on a paper map. So
that reminds me, we were going to talk about the difference between the blue dot and the no compromise GIS experience. And like, that reminds me when you said they're already experienced using some sort of mapping application. So how surprising is it for them to say, oh, I've done this before, and then realize, oh, look, I can see the transformer. I can see the valve. I can see this. I can see that. I can see all the attributes. So how surprising was that for them?
It was really well received, Bruce. Okay. And when you roll out a new application, sometimes the feedback can be all over the place, right?
Yeah.
And I remember after I handed an iPad out to one of the field users, he goes out and actually he was a little reluctant to taking the iPad. He's like, I don't even want this. Don't want any new technology, right?
His name was probably Ed, right?
Maybe Bruce. No, just
Bruce. It could be Bruce. Yeah, it could be.
Takes the iPad out, comes back after first shift was over. He walks up to me and I'm thinking like, okay, this can't be good because he's a real serious guy. And he says, hey, I just got to tell you that that mapping application that you guys created, it's pretty nice. It's pretty cool.
you were expecting the worst when he walked up to you.
I was expecting hey, this I mean, who knows what the feedback would have been.
It could have been anything. Could have been anything. That
he just walked up nice and slow, super serious, had this, I wouldn't say the stare of death on his face, but he just looked real serious, tapped me on the shoulder, and he said, hey, I just wanted to tell you that mapping application that you guys created was pretty nice,
Well, that's cool. That's a great story. I like that story quite a bit. That's pretty fun. Well, that's cool. So I think we've covered a lot of ground there, but I want to. Can you give us any sort of window into what comes? What are the we know that Lemur does offline really well, right? What are the specific things that Lemur does really well, and can you give us a peek into what's in the future for Lemur?
So today we support leak documentation, so that somebody going out there and doing a leak investigation. Okay, so we have a leak investigation module in the product today. We have a leak survey module that's also in the product where.
So these are configurations that support specific field workflows.
Absolutely.
Right. So Lemur does the mobile GIS experience where together with another critical application, they sit side by side in the same UI, right? And work together, passing data, passing information between the two of them.
Yeah, so actually not the same UI. We're real big right now on the app-to-app experience, so peer-to-peer experience right now.
Okay.
And that model has worked out very well for us. It's worked out very well for our partners as well. And we're working real hard as a team right now to build out those connectors, what we're calling Lemur connectors. And but yeah.
Here, let me put a question up here from Steve. Field manuals, access to field manuals. Does Lemur facilitate access to field manuals, Joe?
Field manuals. So right now today, we hadn't had a need to actually access a field manual, but we have had the need to access a detailed drawing.
Okay.
And today users can access detailed drawings out in the field. Now, depending on how you implement the solution, to access a detailed drawing in Lemur, you do need an internet connection or an LTE connection right now today.
Yeah. So if I could say that it seems like that access to a detailed drawing is not much different than a field manual. It's just where you're pointing at, right?
Yeah. Detailed drawings usually come in as PDFs.
Yeah. Right. Okay. All right. So Steve, any other information about that, I'll pass on to you after I get Joe offline because he doesn't want to give away secrets. But can you tell us anything about future functionality?
No.
Oh, shoot. You're going to have to kill me, aren't you?
Well, we are getting ready for our 2021 R1 release. That's going to be a major update to Lemur. And I think I don't know the exact release date on that right now, but I think it's probably June or July. But don't quote me on that. And really the enhancements in the product are going to be with our partners, with our software partners. We're going to be working. Okay. I'm working real hard right now with our SAP partners on our Lemur connector. And other people are working real hard with other partners as well. And so right now, I think the major enhancements are going to come in the connectors.
Good. Okay. Well, I think that's enough detail for now. All right, that works. So Joe, to finish out the interview today, I always like to ask everybody, what's in your future? And this isn't like when you leave Critigen, what are you going to do kind of thing. This is when you look out at the technology horizons, what really excites you? What kinds of things do you dig into in your spare time? I think I know one of them because you and I talked already, but tell me, we talked another time, but tell me what kinds of things you play with, maybe with technology. I don't know if you saw my interview with Sammy Sunu. I don't know how to say his last name. I'm sorry, but I interviewed him and we were standing out on the lawn and I said, so what do you like to do in your spare time? He says, well, I like to fly the flight simulators, and he went in this detailed explanation of how much time he spends doing the flight simulators. And he just got such a big smile on his face. He really loved that. What do you like to do with technology and what excites you about the future?
So right now with technology, I'm getting pretty excited about AI right now. And maybe sometime in the very into the future, maybe AI could be a part of Lemur. Mm-hmm. So AI is pretty exciting right now. I'm pretty excited about AI.
So you're actively looking for some use cases where you can encourage some AI in Lemur, right?
Yeah.
That's awesome. We have a colleague, you probably don't know her because she's new, but I was on the phone with her the other day. This is about AI. And she was telling me, she said, yeah, I have this drone that's coming and pretty soon I'm going to be able to eradicate all of the squirrels that have this specific disease around my property because when the cats get the disease, she said, I really love my cats. And when the cats eat the squirrels with that disease and it'll kill them. And I love my cats and I don't want them to die. And I said, well, how is a drone going to help you to do that? And she said, well, I wrote this algorithm and so on. So it sees anomalies in the coat of the squirrels. And then I can tag them with the geotag so I know which one is which based on the anomalies in the fur. And then we can go and get the exterminator to hunt them down and kill them. I was very impressed, to say the least. That's all.
But I think what's coming, what's actually more likely is, we'll make a Pokemon map with Lemur. I might do that with my kid, and it'll help us find where all the hard to find Pokemons might be.
That's a good idea. That's a great idea. We maybe be able to market the Pokemon map.
We might be able to do that.
Okay. Well, Joe, hey, I'm going to wrap this up because this has been a perfect time length for the interview, and you've been a great guest. I love the stories. I know you have a ton of them. So let's keep talking and let's put them out there. I like the success stories, and the one about the guy tapping you on the shoulder is a golden one. So let's keep that lore going. Thanks everybody for being here today. Appreciate you coming. You know that what we're doing with these Graybeard Talks Geospatial interviews is every one of them is put on our website. Right next to the blogs, there's a place where you can find the recordings of these videos, as well as on our YouTube channel, the Critigen YouTube channel. You can find all of these there as well. So if you heard something that you think you'd like to review, or you'd just like to get to know our personnel better, we've had lots of people recently who've come to us and said, that they wanted to interview because they heard they wanted to interview with us for a job because they heard an interview and it intrigued them about what it would be like to work for Critigen. So hopefully, if you have those thoughts or those desires, you can look us up wherever these are found. So here's the last thing, just as a parting shot, I'm going to put Chinmay's comment up here. He's one of our colleagues. I think Chin's in Chicago, right?
Chin's in Chicago. Chin's in Chicago, and Chin's even part of the Lemur team too. He's actually one of the Chin is one of our Lemur implementers.
Okay, watch out, Chin. You're going to be on the show one of these weeks. So anyway, he says, always a pleasure working with Joe, and I can verify that that's the case. Thanks, Joe, for being such a great colleague, and looking forward to talking to you again.
Hey, thanks, Bruce. Thanks for having me on here, and thanks everybody on LinkedIn.
You bet. We'll see you soon.
Bye.